Going back, I love that kind of music. And my story is actually about a song. This is a story about the first time I heard the song "Hit Me Baby One More Time" by Britney Spears. You guys have heard it, right? It's the first time I heard it. So the year is 2001, and I am a Mormon missionary in Siberia. I had been there for 2 years, actually a little over 2 years. I'd overstayed my 2 years, and I was looking forward to going back home within the month. I had just received what you call a greenie, a brand new missionary who was just coming out, so I was leaving and training him. And ironically enough, his name was Elder Green. And we were out there tracting, out there, doing what missionaries do, going door to door. Now, one thing about my time in Siberia is that it was kind of violent. I had been kicked in the chest, I'd been hit with a shovel, I'd been punched in the face a number of times, and I had been chased. I'd been chased with knives, I'd been chased with sticks, I'd been chased a lot, and I was sick of it. I was really ready to go back to America, where that was hopefully not going to happen nearly as much. At the time, we were about 10 years in from when the Berlin Wall had fallen and the USSR had disintegrated. And so I was experiencing kind of this kleptocracy downfall of Russia period. And now, for whatever you want to say about the USSR, it did one thing amazingly, and that was keep heroin out of Russia. And the second the USSR fell, the second that wall came down, heroin had flooded into Russia, to the point that they had come up with a new word for heroin addicts. They called them narkomani. And they were everywhere. It was almost as prevalent as alcoholism was, which is saying something for Russia. So Elder Green and I were tracting, and we were walking down. This path, and I saw what were clearly two narkomani coming our way. They had a very specific look to them. Look about the eyes, look about the skin, and one looked to be about 17. One looked to be about 14. And as they came to us, they locked eyes on us and started that direct path towards us that I'd come to recognize oh so well that meant trouble was coming my way. But I was an experienced missionary. Elder Green could barely speak Russian at all, so this was on me. I had to handle this. And so I just locked eyes on him, and I started walking direct towards him, and I had the joy of once again getting punched in the face. Now, my mission president, who was in control of the whole thing at that time, he had a strict rule. You are not to fight back when you're attacked. You're supposed to run, because even if it wasn't our fault, even if we were attacked first, if we fought back, there was a chance that our church could get kicked out of that city, maybe even that whole area. So we were dead set. I mean, it was a strict rule, no fighting back. But man, I had been punched in the face just one too many times. And so after getting socked by this guy, and by the way, not the 17-year-old, it was the 14-year-old who hit me in the face. He had to jump up to reach me and just socked me. And that was it. I snapped. I turned around and I went to talk to Elder Green, and I just saw him running. And I said, "Elder, get back here. We're kicking these guys' asses." And Elder Green turned around and he said, "That one just stabbed me." And I looked over, and the 17-year-old was holding what is commonly known as a shiv, not a knife, just a jagged piece of metal with some tape around the bottom of it. I looked over at Elder Green running. He had a red spot on his back, and I thought, okay, one more time. And we started running away, getting chased for what was my last time being chased in Russia. So we got back to our apartment, and he took off his shirt, and I looked at it, and all there was this tiny little incision, maybe an inch, maybe even less, and it looked very minor. And I said, I don't know. I don't know if we need to go to a hospital. Russian hospitals are a little sketchy as they are. And he said, I don't know. When it came out of me, it felt like it came out for a while. I felt a couple inches leave my back. And so I thought, well, maybe we should go to the hospital. So I called up basically the equivalent of 911 in Russia, and we waited for about an hour for the ambulance to show up. And when the ambulance showed up, it wasn't an ambulance as much as it was just a van with no seats in the back. So we got in the back of this van. Both guys in the front seats were smoking in the ambulance and listening to the radio. And this is all, at the same moment, I saw my companion start to waver in consciousness right as Hit Me Baby One More Time started playing. Now, I hadn't heard it before I went to Russia. It had already been out for about 2 years, but that's about when things make it to Russia. And for the first time, I really thought I was going to watch someone die. Like, I thought, this is it. I have no control over what happens next. We, of course, as missionaries, threw up a few prayers, and we got to the hospital. And by then, my companion had actually kind of perked up and started feeling better. We'd had a member of the church come and stay with us. He could speak a little better Russian. I could speak pretty well at that point. Not as well as Dave over there, but I could speak pretty well. And so I talked to the people. They gave him a preliminary exam, and they said, he's fine. It's just a little scratch, but we have to keep him overnight now that he's here. Why don't you go home and grab some stuff for him? So I headed home very quickly, 15, 20 minutes, came back with some pajamas and a toothbrush, and my companion was gone. Nowhere to be found. Can't find the guy who was staying with him, can't find the companion, no one can quite tell me where he is. The guy cannot speak Russian at all. So finally I located the man who had been watching him and said, don't be scared, but he's in surgery right now. And that was a problem because whether or not his wound was serious, Russian surgery was definitely serious. And so I began to look around for an authority figure, and the head in charge of the hospital found me and took me into his office, and he said, your friend has had a very serious wound. And I said, all right, well, how long till he's out of surgery? How long will you have to keep him here? He's like, no, you don't understand me. Your friend has had a very serious wound. I'm like, yeah, but he's gonna live, right? He's like, very serious. So I began to get a little bit more worried, and I went out and sat in the waiting room for the longest period. I have no idea how long it actually was, but I've never felt so much pressure while I was sitting there. And the phrase, hit me baby one more time, was just running through my head for no reason. After about, I don't know, what seemed like a million years, but it was probably more like an hour, I was told that my companion was out of surgery and that I could go in and see him, and they put him in a room. I walked in, and this guy he was like 6'3", but he was the meekest, most gentle, most shy guy that you'd ever met. I mean, just the quintessential 20-year-old virgin, like just never been anywhere in the world, came from Arizona to Siberia, and he was laying there in bed just staring at the ceiling. I said, Elder, how are you? Are you okay? And he said, they all saw my penis. I said, what? He said, there were 4 nurses. They made me lie down on a bed, take off all my clothes, and they shaved off all my pubic hair. Oh my God. Which was confusing because the wound was in his back. But it turned out that luckily, even though the shiv had gone 3.5 to 4 inches into his back, it had miraculously missed all of his organs somehow, and he was able to get better and get out of the hospital in a good amount of time with the nastiest scar you've ever seen on his back. It looked like they stitched him up with yarn. And I'm happy to say that missionary went on to complete his entire mission. 2 years, he learned how to speak Russian beautifully. He actually ended up becoming, I heard, one of the boldest and most, gregarious, just effervescent missionaries that was on the entire thing. And I went home and was very happy about it. And to this day, can't hear the song, Hit Me Baby One More Time, without being transported to the back of that van, smelling 2 guys smoke cheap Siberian cigarettes while we bounced around in a seatless van, hoping that one of us didn't die. Thank you. Thank you very much.